Hello, good evening. This is the Legacy Talk back again with you tonight. I believe tonight we are going to learn a lot about what two women are going through, Miriam Marker and Jenny Harris. Jenny is the founder of the Equal Shared Parenting Facebook group. Miriam happens to be on uh, on the That's Mother 2 platform, and I believe the fatherhood movement as well. I mean, they have some interesting stories to share with us tonight on parental alienation from their own perspective and what they are going through as women. Um, Jenny as well is she's been through it, a strong advocate for shared parenting. I believe we need these stories out, for the public to understand what is really happening, not just to dads, but there are women as well, as I always say, that are experiencing the same problems. And as I've always said, it's wrong and it's evil to withhold a child against another parent, to use a child as a weapon to hurt somebody else. Um, you are not truly hurting the child, hurting the parent um, who's been alienated, but the child is the one that suffers the most. The child grows up damaged, emotionally broken, self-esteem diminished, and I don't see how some parents, chooses to put children through that. Now, if you truly love a child, you should truly love the other side of the child, which is the other parent. You can't, choose to have it all. And when there's problems, you start going after the other parent to help. Every child deserve it's their right, and it's their God-given right to have both of their parents in their lives. God did not choose one parent over the other. Both of the parents are equally needed to raise a child for them to become, influential people when they grow up. And so I'm going to pass on to Mark. Mark, if you have anything to share with us, but whilst Mark is going to come, I'm going to share the YouTube link as well. Share it with your friends, share it with anybody that you know going through this. People need to hear these stories. There are people that are broken, and some of these stories really gives hope, to others. So, Mark, over to you.
Thanks. Yeah, so glad to have you guys on this evening. It's so important, as Ben mentioned, that it's not just us men that are going through it; women are going through it too. And whether it's maybe new wife of the father that's impacted, or women being impacted just directly, this unfortunately is happening so much. And again, it's instead of considering the child, there's that selfishness that is all about themselves versus actually considering what's best for the child. And it's always best for the child to have two parents involved. So thank you for being here this evening. Looking forward to our conversation.
Awesome. Um, Jenny, I'm gonna go to you first. First of all, thank you, Miriam. Truly appreciate you taking the time to be with us tonight. Um, like I said, your stories can turn somebody's life around, and also can instill some level of hope, for them to know that they are not alone. Sometimes people tend to internalize these things. They keep quiet and not want to talk about it. But I thank you for your boldness, to share these stories because they go a long way. They go a long way not just to help other families, but also for our politicians to know that this. I mean, there are people out there that are struggling, and there are children that are also struggling as well. I believe sharing these stories creates awareness, and it brings things to light, things that are in the dark. It sort of brings everything to light. Jenny, how did you get involved in? First of all, why did you start a shared parenting group page?
I'm sorry, what was that?
What was the motivation behind your equal shared parenting Facebook group page?
That's kind of a loaded question. Well, I was outraged, number one, watching my partner go through the court system and fighting for his children's right to have him in their life. It was appalling to me seeing how alone he felt, knowing that there had to be many other people out there that were going through the same thing, and just trying to look for that community and build that community. A lot of what I found for our particular region, it was more geared towards mothers, or just really wasn't that informative. So I wanted something where we could go speak to other people, have honest, frank conversations, and gain knowledge, because really that is the key to it. The more you educate yourself, the better off you'll be, financially, at least hopefully, not having to deal with lawyers constantly. So that's why I started the page, just looking for that community and looking for that support and hoping to be that support for somebody else.
I think that's key. What you just said is the community.
And I
I know
appreciate
that was part of just when I started my movement as well. As when I was going through it, there just wasn't a whole lot, or did I know that there was? I think there was more than I knew there was.
Yeah.
But it's just getting connected, finding out where it's at, being aware of just some of these things that you learn as you go through it. And so now I feel like I'm an expert and I can help a lot of other people, and I try to steer them and give them advice so that they don't have to go through the lengthy legal and financially crippling battle through courts. Kind of give them an idea of just what they're in for a little bit and what's the best route to go. Try to give them some navigation. And yeah, I think as a significant other in the life of somebody that's going through it, you don't really realize it, right? Because I know people in my life are like, I have no clue that you would have to go through this, right? And so they're family members or significant others have no clue unless they've been through it. And so then your eyes get wide open. So thanks for saying, okay, all right, now I know more about it. Now what can I build? What kind of community can I build? Because it really helps out. It really just having somebody to talk to. I've had a lot of people just say, I need a vent. I need to talk. I need some advice. And do I go this route, or should I get an attorney or not? And it's just, there's so many questions. There's so much that you're just not aware of until you're in the midst of it. So thank you for creating that community.
Thank you as well.
Yeah. And that's very impressive, right? I guess all three of us had a reason why we had to start those groups. I guess based on our own experiences and be able to share, have a platform to talk. Like me, I didn't even know that this thing was real. I thought I was the only one that was going through it. And so I started joining groups, and I realized that okay, there's a huge community out there that need an avenue, a place to just pour out. So I truly appreciate your effort, especially being a female, pushing for shared parenting. It's very unusual. Thank you so much for for this initiative. Go ahead.
I was going to say, we always want to do what's in the best interest of our children, and the best interest of our children and as a future generation is to have both parents who are fit, happy, healthy in their lives.
True. And Miriam, just over to you. How did you get involved in this movement, parental alienation?
Because of my husband. He's been alienated from his kids, since him and his ex split up. For a while there, he wasn't allowed to see them at all. And I've just seen how sad and how helpless he felt. And I feel like I get more angry than he does, just having to watch him go through that and not be able to do anything. But yeah, so that's why, and just seeing what it does to him, and then seeing what it does to his kids too. It's sad, and it just makes me sad for them.
And I think your fact of being upset is validated, like you said. And he may not know. This is just speaking from I know when I had significant others in my life, and just what could they do the best for me. Mm-hmm. And because sometimes it's just hard for a man to process everything that they're going through.
Yeah.
And so I think, and if you can take that frustration and then how can you strategically maybe help him, but also just encourage him, which I'm sure you do. But more than anything right now, that man needs encouragement, right? Needs to know that when they, even if they feel like they're losing the battle in the short term, they, because as men, we're really wired. We want to fix things, right? We want to, success is important. All these things are important, right? And so, especially when our kids are involved and we feel like, I just don't know what to do. Like everything I try, it's just backfiring. And why is it the case? Just encourage him. Just encourage him of who he is as a man and a father, and that he has what it takes to, make it through this battle, and be there for his kids. So, when you said that, I was just like, I understand. Sometimes it feels like you don't know what to do, but I know for me, that was the biggest thing, is just be my support, and get frustrated with me when I get frustrated.
Yeah.
We want to be, we want to try and, put our heads together and get strategic, and just understand that some of the emotions that he might be processing, just as much emotions as you're processing, he's processing even more. So
Yeah,
that would be my encouragement.
Awesome. And Mary, I'm going to stay with you for a few minutes more. What's your husband is experiencing it. You did not necessarily go through the issue of parental alienation. Considering what your husband is going through, what's your take on it? I mean, it's a very difficult thing for somebody to go through. I thank God that you understand the importance of fatherhood in the life of children, and you are sharing the time with your ex-husband when it comes to your children. But some do not necessarily have the same view like you do. What's your view on parental alienation, considering what your husband is going through?
I always think of two things when I think about it, and I just think it's cruel, and I agree with what Mark said earlier, that it's very selfish of the other parent to not be considering what it's doing to the children and what it's doing to the other spouse, because the children need both parents. Oh. Sorry.
Okay. Sorry about that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Miriam.
Oh, sorry. Do you need me to answer it again, or?
Oh no. Okay. Okay. No, I thought you were still speaking.
Oh yeah, I was. I got confused.
Go ahead. If you're still.
Yeah, I guess that's it. It's just I feel it's very cruel to do to the children. It's I don't know. I can't think of another word, and it's not fair. And I don't see why you wouldn't want to have around the other family and other people that love your children. I think if you love your children, you want as much love as you can get for them. And so it's hard to understand still why anyone would do that.
Yeah, I don't think any trying to understand is going to make you understand. You just like thinking about it, trying to philosophize why. There's just a spirit behind it, unfortunately, a spirit of fear. Honestly, a spirit of fear, a spirit of entitlement, a spirit of just probably envy. I mean, there's just all sorts of stuff, right? I mean, there's just all those kind of things that are making that person want to have that control, very much spirit of control, and it's just not healthy for a child. Yeah. I mean, we've got two parents that are fit and able, and they don't get to decide if that other parent is fit and able, and just because you might parent a little bit different, or you might do a few things different. I mean, in a marriage, you're going to do things different, right? Men and women, right? So you got to let that parent just be involved without any interruption and without any alienation. And so trying to figure it out, trying to determine, well, why are they doing it? It just make you spin, Jenny, I saw you shaking your head. You probably experienced it too, right? It's just like,
oh yeah,
it's just like, you can't figure it out, and you just have to, again, it's going back to encouraging your situation and your significant other that, we're strong, we can get through this, we're going to figure out what tactics we need to do, what things we need to do. And hopefully we keep, across the States and Canada and stuff, keep pushing for this 50-50, where it should just be. And that, and again, and we know there's monetary incentives and there are all sorts of stuff that unfortunately causes this thing to escalate. And it needs to just be, you get divorced, it's 50-50, whatever that looks like, whatever the financial is there, but it's straightforward, and these kids will do much better. It's proven too. It's proven time and time again. So,
yeah. And Jenny, I'm going to come back to you. I know you are a strong advocate for equal shared parenting. And one of the challenges that we have in Canada is that it's been an uphill battle, to push this agenda through. What I find doing this podcast and talking to people as well is that a lot of people do not know about shared parenting and why we need to have shared parenting. Most people do not know that parents are being alienated and children are being used against, parents as well. Why do you think this is so difficult? Thinking about it is like just a straightforward, solution, but it doesn't seem to be.
I don't think there will be any straightforward, easy solution. Unfortunately, what's common sense to a lot of us isn't common to a lot of others. With parental alienation and watching, everything that's happening in our courts currently over the last 2 years dealing with COVID, people don't talk about it. They think it doesn't affect them. But parental alienation, the lack of shared parenting, the custody battles that go on in our society right now touch each and every single person in one way, shape, or form. Our society as a whole gets crippled with mental health, with emotional issues, with neglect issues that all, in a lot of ways, can stem back to children growing up in a home where it was a single parent home, whether or not it was a choice of alienation or whatever the circumstances is. Every single set of research that you will find shows that those kids fare worse. And I think we're scared. And I think a lot of people, they think we can talk about it, but no change is going to happen. So what's the point? And they kind of shove their heads back in the sand and carry forward. And anybody that's a parent that truly loves their child should not want to have their children grow up in a society like this. I have a son. Never in a million years would I want to watch my son go through what I watched other people go through. I don't want my daughter to ever grow up and think she's entitled to run a child's life because she's the one that gave birth to it. That I want different for my kids. And I think that's what most people should want. And we definitely do have to have broader conversations. I know personally I talk to everybody I can about it, whether it's friends of mine, people at work, wherever I am. If I have a chance to talk about it, I just go ahead because it may be a little uncomfortable, but at the end of the day, if we don't talk about it, nothing will ever change.
You're absolutely right. And same for me. I have a son, and I don't want, I want, first of all, I hope and pray that he never has to run into it, right? But I want just the laws I just want them to be, like I said, straightforward and take all the, all the hostility and all that, adversity and everything out of it. And we know that the courts, unfortunately, they're supposed to be there to help, and they don't. Now I'll say there are some that really truly, some attorneys, some ad litems and stuff like that, and some judges and stuff that they do. But unfortunately, there's so much money in the system, and we all know all those details. We don't have to get into it here, but there are some good ones out there. But unfortunately, there are a lot that are tainted, and the system is set up for incentives, for it to be incentivized for money to flow and for basically, it already to be determined, basically. It's already going to be determined. And it shouldn't be that. The determination should be a 50-50 equal shared parenting. That's the determination. You know, it took both of you to have the child. It takes both of you to raise them. And, you know, for me, for the, you know, the fatherhood movement, we stand for three things. It's for to encourage fathers, just to be good, great fathers, to stand in the gap for fatherlessness when it does happen and there's not a father involved, because we know sometimes it's forced fatherlessness, right? And then three, to stand up for fathers' rights, right? And so, you know, we know the statistics without a father in the kid's life, what happens, right? And those statistics are out there, they're proven. And for women like you to stand behind your significant other and to then be the voice, that's huge. Because a lot of times when fathers are, you know, we got our movements and we're like, oh, we're being, you know, injustice towards us and stuff, we get labeled as just, you know, oh, you're just, you know, you're just angry men and, you know, everything. But when the women, right, when they start standing up and saying, hey, I've been in this situation, I'm the other side of it, and this is what's going on, guys. Because when women that have joined my movement, they're like, I don't understand, how can this be happening? And like, well, you don't know it's happening until you're actually impacted in some way, shape, or form. To your point, everyone's impacted. They're just impacted less, and they kind of put the blinders on and just keep going. But when you're impacted just like almost directly, or just, you know, right next door, because you're that significant other, and it's impacting you and your family that you're trying to create, or, you know, your relationship or whatever, then you start to go, whoa, this is not good, right? So women, again, kudos to you guys to, you know, be strong voices for the fatherhood movements, the, you know, those kind of things in your own. Be strong voices for equal shared parenting, because our biggest, they're not a pandemic that, I mean, has to be concerned about. It's the epidemic of fatherlessness in society right now.
Yeah, and I have a question on YouTube from Anne-Marie Horton. And she writes, there needs to be more strict laws with parental alienation. The court system is flawed, and it's very sad. I'm gonna, you know, ask both of you the same question. Um, do you feel that the government has made enough effort to pass laws meant to protect, you know, alienated children?
No.
Why do you say that?
Well, until recently, it wasn't even really something that was thought of. It wasn't recognized. It wasn't recognized by mental health professionals that parental alienation is something that seriously happens and has massive detrimental impacts on the lives of children and the parents. And now it's coming about, but we're still very, very far behind in the times.
Mhm.
Our government, our powers that be, are more concerned with lining their pocket than with the actual well-being of the society in which they are running.
Miriam?
Well, I agree with Jenny, and then I think, and I also agree with the fact that it does make more money if there's conflict. So, you know, I feel like they're in support of the parents fighting versus, you know, having equal shared parenting. Just watching my husband, I don't know how much money both sides spent so far, you know, in going to court over and over and over again. So,
Which is mind-boggling, because that money would have been so much better spent on the children, whether it be their education, extracurricular activities, anything like that, making memories. But let's go ahead and fight in court and spend thousands.
yeah.
Yeah, I try to encourage a lot of my guys that, like, they're just starting, you know, just at the first stages of this. And, you know, first of all, if there's any way they can keep it out of the courts, right? But a lot of times the other party will go ahead and get in the courts because they're getting a lot of counsel that you get in the courts and here's what happens and stuff. But then my guidance to them is, look, you need to figure out a way to diffuse this. And don't just, your attorney is going to want to say, hey, let's go through the 2-year process and, you know, all this stuff. And, you got to figure out how to diffuse this as best you can. And that doesn't mean that you're able to, in most times, talk to your ex in the situation because there's too much tension. But you can still try to figure out like how can you diffuse it, even knowing like what the long term might end up being. You know, like if it goes all the way, because it's pretty much almost a given a lot of times for men, unfortunately, that they're not going to get the primary, right? And so don't be fighting for the primary, because if you're going to try and do that, you got a long process, right? Unless you need to, unless it's like very specifically you need to be the primary. I mean, the best case again is the 50-50 shared, equal shared, and then maybe it's a geographic restriction for the school or whatever. Like, this is the best thing, because then what happens is it breeds co-parenting, right? And I mean, the very easy, you mentioned this, Ben, about like, well, are they doing anything for parental alienation? No, not at all. Not one thing. Because it's not concerned, like you said, even until recently, did they even are they even labeling it? And even then, it's like, they don't know what to do with it. Right. Mm-hmm. So, but if the courts, and again, I know we're kind of talking like, once you're in the courts, you kind of lose control, but if they wanted to just say, hey, it's equal shared parenting, you're not going to get any less or more. And the only thing that you can prove is one side's not truly co-parenting. And you can see when one side's not co-parenting, right? Well, guess what? Then we're going to shift it. Right? Now they're going to lose some time for, maybe you put them on probation or something like that. They lose some time for a little bit. And then if they co-parent, we can go back, right? Because again, if the goal is, I just want to spend as much time with my kids and raise them, and you end up not co-parenting well, and then you lose some time, you're probably going to adjust. Because when you can get to a co-parenting arrangement and really work on behalf of the parents, even if you don't have 50-50, still, if you have a significant amount of time in your kid's life and you get to a co-parenting relationship, and you don't have to agree on everything, you don't have to be best buddies, but you can actually work on the best of your child, then you're going to end up having the best scenario. And it's in the case in my son's life. It was like, now, like, he's thriving like crazy, but there was no reason we had to go through all the years that we had to go through. Once you get to the point to where you're actually working on the best of the child, and you're actually working together and not trying, to have control over the other or whatever, then that's when your child does the best. So yeah, the courts I don't think we can expect the courts or anyone to do anything like in regards to that. Best we can get is if we can get to 50-50 in that, and we see some states coming on board, and we're working here in Texas, the more and more we can get to that, and then keep it out of the courts is the best. And that's what I try to tell some of my friends, that if you can get to like a temporary or a mediated settlement that's 50-50, and you don't try and change that, just keep that. And just be that significant presence in your life. So,
yeah. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah. My husband, he tries to communicate and just ask nicely, like, hey, can I make sure all kids come this weekend, or he'll just ask a simple question, and any question he asks gets this is a court issue. And that's frustrating, but yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Jenny, you were going to say something?
I was just, it's great to have this conversation with people that can relate so directly to it and can understand. It's something that I always question myself on. How do these parents do this to their kids, and just how do we change it? And it seems like a very far off thing, but I agree 100% with you, Mark. One thing that I tell everybody is educate yourself. Educate yourself, educate yourself, educate yourself. Read everything you possibly can. Every area where you can gain knowledge, soak it in. And that goes to with dealing with narcissists, dealing with selfish people, dealing with high stress situations. How to calm yourself down so you're less likely to engage in conflict when you're in the courts or dealing with the other parent.
I have Derek on Facebook YouTube as well, Derek Shields, and he posted this comment. I've shared it on the screen as well, and it reads: "We love our children with our whole hearts, and can argue about parenting time and income, etc. But the emotional toll it takes on us and our children is a fundamental human rights issue." Your take on it, Jenny?
I've watched my children go for years in their life without their father. It was not my choice for him to not be involved. He chose to walk away. We're currently at almost a 6-year stretch now with no communication from him. My children will never recover from the emotional impact that they've sustained on having that happen. Nothing that I could ever do will ever bring that back, will ever give them that time back, nor will it ever make them understand why he did what he did. I think that's why alienation is so hard for me to deal with, because I would do anything for my kids to have their father on a regular basis. That wasn't meant to be for us. It is an emotional issue and that directly affects their human rights. When you become emotionally damaged, it stretches into other areas of your life and really can bring down a human's life if they don't get the right help or the right support.
Mhm.
Miriam?
Yeah, I know some family members that were also alienated from their dad, and I feel like it's hard for any of them to have a good relationship with anybody, and I feel like it affects how they live their lives right now, and that makes me sad for them too. And I feel like that's probably from not being able to see both parents.
Jenny, I wanted to say I'm sorry that your kid's dad was not involved or hasn't been involved. Um, don't give up, though. I mean, that he may still come around. Um, it's up to him. That's on him. I'm sure it still sits with him somewhere that he's not involved. And so, your kids are how old?
Actually 16 and 19, so they're not young anymore.
They're not. They're not. But maybe, but they still can have, if that relationship is rekindled, they can still have that fatherly connection. So, hopefully he will. Hopefully he'll understand what he's missed, and he's probably dealing with a lot of pride, a lot of guilt, all that kind of stuff right now.
Yeah.
And so, but you know what? I mean, that can change in an instant if he's willing to overcome that, and it's going to take a while for him to probably rekindle that relationship and for them to trust and all that stuff. But don't give up, because that can happen, and that would be the best thing if it could happen. So.
Oh, 100%. I would, like I said, I'd give anything for that to happen. The trust issue with my children, not even having them alienated against their dad, but just him choosing to do what he did. It broke their trust in people. They don't trust people, and I don't blame them. And it hurts me to the core, and it's a guilt that I shouldn't have to carry. It wasn't my choice, but it's a guilt that I carry because I couldn't protect them from that pain.
I get that, yeah, but don't let go of that too.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So let go of that, because I know it's a pretty painful thing, but our kids are also going to have pain in their lives. We can't constantly keep them from it, right? So,
yep.
It causes resilience and that kind of thing, and so, yeah. So maybe even letting go of that will cause some things to change and shift, and he can change his decisions and come back and be a part of their life.
Yeah.
And Mark, being a dad, I'm going to ask you this question: Why do you think some fathers would just? I'm just sitting here, just trying to process, Jenny's story with her child, father disappearing from the scene, and not making any effort at all to be in the life of the child. And I just can't seem. I mean, you and I, fought, right? Spent a lot of money, to be there for these children. And I don't know why, a mother is willing to share a child's time, but yet, the dad is just nowhere to be found. Why do people do that? It just makes no sense to me.
Yeah, it's one of those things, kind of like we're talking about. We just can't make sense of, right? Like the other things that we're talking about here is, in thinking about it, sometimes it's just a circular thought. It's like, I don't understand. I mean, I say that, but I do probably. It's not that I understand, because to me, I was instantly like, I knew I had what it takes to be a father, even though I hadn't been a father before. I knew I had what it takes. I knew I could do it. But I had some really good examples of parents that gave me that ability to know that I could be a father, and that I wanted to, and that I was super excited to have my son. Um, so I don't know. Sometimes it could be maybe their things in their upbringing. Maybe they didn't have the best father or something. It could just be they were scared. I do a lot of stuff for teenage fathers. So we're talking about. I lead a group for the other side of the equation for the teenage moms that are pregnant, for the fathers. And for so long, it was just the focus around the teenage moms, which there should be, because we want to encourage them to keep their kids and not abort, right? We want to desperately give them help. But I'm like, what about the father? He's scared to death there too. He's probably as more scared, and just because he, as women mature a little bit faster than men, and he's probably like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. Maybe didn't have a good upbringing, a good father as well, and so he's scared to death. He doesn't know that he has what it takes and can do it, right? So encouraging them, right? So likewise, even an older father could also just still be a little scared with that. Honestly, they haven't dealt with their own selfishness if they decide to just take off. It's just sad. But that's why I say, though, and my point of is, it may be years, and now they're dealing with guilt, now they're dealing with shame and all sorts of stuff, because they didn't. That's why I want to encourage these young fathers to not give up then, because it'll only get harder, right? After years and years and years. And now you're like thinking, oh, well, there's no hope, or I've done too much damage. And so, but that father's heart is still there. I got to believe, my beliefs, that God gives you a child, man or woman, he's equipped you to be a parent. So you have that in you. You can be a mother, you can be a father. And so, and you're always going to have that tie. You're not going to be able to separate it. You can't distance it. So I feel like it could take a long time, but I feel like all fathers will eventually want to come back and be a part of that, and hopefully that's what they end up deciding to do. So just don't give up on that. So I can't understand myself, but I do understand that there's probably some reasons why they may have made that choice, and now it gets just that much harder. But I think at some point they're going to have to surrender. I just think there's a point to where they're going to be like, I'm running. I can't do this anymore. So I just know too many good fathers, so that are just 100% there for their kids. And the ones that decided not to, I think they just didn't think they had it at that time. But there's hope.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. But Jenny, I'm just gonna, I'm a strong believer, and what I'll add to what Mark said is, always look up to the Father in heaven. He's the overall Father. I mean, he did not design things for for fathers to just walk out of a child's life. But if that happens, he's always there. He's always there. He's the chief comforter. He's there to comfort. He's there to provide everything that is needed for that child to grow up to be successful. So just keep, just be strong. Keep strong, and keep hoping that someday something will shift, something will turn around. Uh, things always turn around. There's always a turning point. Yeah, every situation has a turning point. And I strongly believe that there'll be a time when he will come, searching for you guys. That guilt that Mark was talking about is just gonna, push him to a limit where he will come back and look for his child. Um, One of the things I don't, and why parents will choose to withhold children from their other parents, to alienate, children from the other parents. I don't know if it's a mental health issue because, like thinking about it, it's just evil. There's no other word for me to use to describe that. If it's not a mental health issue, I just don't know what it is. I mean, why do you think a parent would do that to a child? To damage the other parent to the child, that this child and his family are the most unwanted people in your life. Um, why do you think some would just go that not to that extent? To damage a child's life like that.
In my experience, a lot of the mentality that majority of mothers have, society has bred it into them. Women have grown up knowing that we are the best parent. When you're a little girl and you're playing with dollies, it's always the mommy. There's never really any mention of daddies. More and more children are growing up in broken homes where they don't know and they don't have examples of the father or the parent, both parental figures. It makes it a lot more difficult to come into life, to have your own child, to get hurt, and to know how to properly deal with that pain and that hurt and move on. You get so stuck in, oh, this person did me wrong, but while you were making a child, they weren't really doing you that wrong. When you spent years with them, they were okay. And now all of a sudden, because whatever life happens, you're not together anymore. It's really just a lack of knowledge. I think a lot of it has to do again with society and just the way we have raised our children, the way generations have been raised to always believe that the mother is always the best choice when it is just so incredibly wrong.
Miriam?
Yeah, I actually say that a lot, that our society did that to women. I always, and I could be wrong, but I always tell my husband I feel like feminism, at least the extreme, is kind of started that off, that mentality of like women are better, or whatever. And I have to say um, I think luckily, I grew up in a house where my mom encouraged my relationship with my dad, and I was always very close with him. And I think highly of my dad. I think highly of men, and I think that you're right that that's missing in a lot of maybe daughter father relationships. I don't know how that may have started, but I feel like that's maybe where it comes from.
Yeah, I think to comment on that, Ben, I think absolutely there's a number of things. Um, you know, you had the traditional roles back when, and honestly, it's when our country was stronger.
Mm-hmm.
Back when those traditional roles, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, I'll say as men that there's mistakes that men had made and maybe got too focused even on their careers, and so the family became kind of the mom spent most of the time with the kids and dad was just at work, and that wasn't good because it needs to be a family unit.
Mm-hmm.
And so then there was the movement of feminism and that kind of overtook it, and then you had this switch where then like you see all even the sitcoms and stuff, and they're always poking fun at the father, the Al Bundy,
Mm-hmm.
Homer Simpson, or what, he's like kind of the bumbling fool, and honestly, as men, we kind of maybe didn't even think much of it. We didn't. So I think all these things just kind of a perfect storm that has shifted and stuff, and then we both said, okay, that's the two parent incomes, and then and then the kids, well, okay, they got less time with the family, and then allowing the schools to raise them, which is that's another whole topic that's wrong, and just causing our society to go south. And so everything just got twisted. And now what you're seeing, and then you see, okay, well, because of that, the mom usually was one with the child and stuff, so they're going to have more of the primary, and yet now what I think you're seeing really shift back, and that's where you're seeing a lot of resistance too, because there was kind of money on this whole model that has been made. And so now you're seeing this resistance because the fathers are going, no, I am going to be involved with my children, and I want to be involved. And now I'm fighting like crazy just to have that equal time in these situations. And you're seeing, the moms are working, so they're also working. And then now, like I said, just with everything you're seeing, wait a second, do we even want our kids to go into school? Maybe we should start, teaching them ourselves, and maybe we should go back to the traditional ways, right? And that is the best way. I mean, that is the best model, is that you have that family unit, and you have the father intact, and you have, together the parents are leading that family. But there's a lot of things also just in the spiritual realm that's trying to keep that from happening, trying to keep that broken up, trying to break down the nuclear family. That's a constant attack. And so I think we're seeing the biggest fight right now, and have been for the last year, even right now. Yet the positive, the good story of this, you're seeing fathers like never before fight back. We're not going to allow it to continue. We're going to put it into it. We're going to change that for future generations, and women like you, like to have that also together with our movements and stuff, and saying, you know what, no, we're going to speak out. We're going to speak out to these women. They may not have had any experience or been involved with anything currently, but at some point it's going to touch your life, and we need to stop it now. And so again, just kudos to you guys to use your voice, use it strongly. Like, man, that's going to make our movements. We had a year and a half ago, I guess, when we went down to the committee down in Austin, Texas, we had 200 people speaking on behalf of equal shared parenting. They had to go all through the night because they had to listen to everyone, the committee. We had women, so it wasn't just men. We had women, we had kids also speaking, 16-year-olds saying, I want equal shared parenting. This is best for me. Unfortunately, they didn't vote it out of the committee. But we're going to double that this time. We're going to have 400. We're going to keep them there 2 days. I don't care how long it takes. We're going to be there until they know that. I think this next time they're not going to get away with we won't vote out of committee, and we'll give them a little bit more, but we won't give them that, whatever. They're not going to get away with that, because they know the force. They know what's coming. They know what, is happening in other states. So it's going to happen. We don't know how long, but it will happen. Trust me, it will happen, because I think for years that we were silent. We didn't do anything. We didn't say anything. And now, you know how it is. Things get changed when people just keep at it. And my movement, it's growing, but there's movements out there even bigger than that. Mm-hmm. So we just keep bonding together and just, keep a unified force. And again, when they can just point and say, oh, it's just angry men. But when the women and the children are also speaking up for it, what are they going to say? Mm-hmm. Are you going to label us all domestic terrorists or something like that? Yeah. You might want to edit that.
No, but I mean, just talking about this, I think maybe next year we should have a huge protest across the U.S. and Canada on this issue. The larger the voice, the more people we have, the better. I mean, they know. I mean, politicians look at the votes, right? If they see votes there, something will definitely change. They want to see numbers, and right now we don't have the numbers openly. Everybody's doing it or keeping things to themselves. But once everybody starts talking, I strongly believe something will change. Now, going back to the feminist movement, I think from that time when that movement became active to now, there's been a whole generation of children who grew up without fathers. And having talked to some folks that works with the youth, especially the juveniles, much of what they tell me is that a lot of these kids are in there out of anger because their dads were never in their lives, not by choice, but because the system did not allow them to be in their lives. And so this has become a public health issue where a lot of children growing up without fathers are very angry. They are fighting back. Out of that anger, they do stupid things that eventually put them behind bars. They have no father figure in their lives to sort of direct them on the right path. And so we see this becoming a problem. And, for some reason, it's not gonna. I personally don't think this will go away until we rise up, together, one force, and fight back. And start speaking out that this is creating more problems for our societies than it is helping. I don't know if any of you feel the same way. Uh,
Well, definitely, it is a public health issue. Not just in the respect to mental health and resources that children will need as they grow older, especially when they've been, alienated against the parents. But it's the mental health care, the physical strain that your body goes through when it's under so much pressure, so much stress, so much pain, heartbreak. It takes a toll on you, which then in turn takes a toll on our healthcare systems. Um, the fathers who unfortunately can't fight anymore and take their own lives. It that then just it trickles out. All their friends, family now have to go through and suffer with not having this person in their life anymore. It's a massive issue. It touches on every single aspect of our lives, on every single aspect of our society, whether it be the health, economics, everything. It touches on everything.
mm, mm. Miriam, any thoughts?
Um, I feel the same. I guess I feel the same. I was gonna say something pretty similar. So
Yeah. It's almost 9 o'clock. We're gonna be wrapping up very soon. Any I have a lot of Facebook is very active right now with people posting comments. But any final words to share? We have 5 minutes to go, so just take your time. Any final word to share with your audience? I believe this is also being shared on your Facebook group as well, Jenny. Any final words you want to share with your audience and those that are with us tonight?
Um, all I'll say is document. Yeah, I'm sure anybody that's listening or has been part of the system is aware of that. Document everything, every single thing, phone calls, the length of the phone calls, where they took place, everything, and educate yourself. Educate yourself on stress relieving techniques. Educate yourself on the family justice system. Educate yourself as much as you possibly can to allow yourself not to be taken advantage of by those lawyers out there that are not so good. And then ask for help. Talk about it. You don't have to hide your feelings. You don't have to hide the pain that you feel. There's others out there that feel that pain, that we may not know you, but we can relate and we're here. We don't want to see you lose the battle. We don't want to see you succumb to that. We want to help you keep going and living a good life for that child that you will at some point have back in your life.
Awesome. Miriam, final words?
sorry.
Any final words for our audience tonight?
Oh, I guess I think finding the support myself, finding your pages helped a lot. Reading other people's stories, and I guess praying and giving it to God when you don't understand helps a lot.
Hmm. Mark?
Yeah, so I would agree with all of the above. Educate yourself, find out as much as you can, just kind of about the system and the way that it flows. It's probably pretty similar even in Canada versus the States here. In every state, I mean, it's set up to bring you through kind of the gauntlet, especially if you don't agree. If parents can agree, if you can get to mediate settlement, then they're going to honor that, because constitutionally, at least, they're not coming up against that at this point. But but if you don't, then they take on, and we'll figure out the best interest for the child, and that best interest becomes a nightmare of things, slated to basically cause as much toxicity as possible, unfortunately, instead of really diffuse the situation. So educate yourself on, what are my paths? Do I need an attorney? Can I do a pro se? Is there other ways to do it? Is just figure out and get some, there's others that have been through it. Definitely find support, a community. That's key. That's huge. You need to have that, because if it's just like anything. If when you hear, even like I said, in some of the groups and stuff, oh, someone else is actually going through the same thing. Oh, that sounds like me. Oh, wow, I'm not the only one. Because sometimes you think, man, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? Why am I going through this? And when you go, okay, well, it's happening to other people too. Not that we want to like relish it. Oh, well, they're having to go through it too. But it's the fact that, okay, all right, they're going through it together. We kind of understand each other. Just like on this call, we have a lot of similarities that we can, empathize and understand together. People need that, and you need that support. You need that community. So find them, at any way possible. You got Dads Matter too. You got the fatherhood movement. Jenny, what's yours called?
Shared parenting, father's rights, and it's basically geared for Ontario, but we'll accept anybody.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, and I've got people all over the world in it, in different time zones and stuff. So find those communities. I know in mine, I'm only a direct message away. If someone wants to contact me and just say, hey, I got a question, or can you talk, or whatever, just having somebody to kind of listen. If you don't have that in your community, I know for me, it was very important to find that community. I found it, and that's why I offer it in my local area. I mean, we have a strong fathers, a single fathers group. And then lastly, what you said, Miriam, also is just give it to God, pray about this. God understands the situation, even if it seems like, how can he? Why aren't things happening? Why aren't they happening sooner? Why is this happening? I don't get it. He understands. He doesn't want this to happen, but he can actually, through this, also do so much in your own life, your own relationship, that kind of thing, because it creates this resilience and stronger, relationship. Doesn't mean it's going to be easy. Doesn't mean it's going to be challenging. But again, that's why the most important thing is really to just find that strength, from him, from each other, because you guys are going to help each other get through this, and he's going to. So don't ever give up, because our kids they need us. They're that important. We all know that. So,
Yeah. And I strongly believe, and this is to our audience tonight, that the best interest of a child is better supported by shared parenting. There's no other way, but that is what is best for children. It's been proven through social science studies for years, and there's no other way to sort of argue about this. No, it's all about the children. It's not about. If we truly love our children, if we truly love to see our children thrive in life, then let's just make sure that we have both of their parents active in their lives. It's not about a mother taking the active role of father. The children, if they need both parents, to grow. One of the things that was on my heart this afternoon was about the fact that when you are going through these things, it's so easy to break. It's so easy to start being very negative. So easy to feel very discouraged and feel rejected in society. But One of the things that helped me personally was my faith. My faith grew stronger. My relationship with God became stronger. I became more prayerful. I drew closer to God, and I realized that God also drew closer to me. Um, One of the things that these alienated parents love to do is to push you to a point where they want to see you broken. They want to see you destroyed, to a point where they can have something to prove to the children that I told you so. He's not a good person. He's going to hurt you. He's going to do that, but that is not true. They just want to see you destroyed, because it just and that's why I was saying that this is so evil, because for some reason somebody enjoys to see another parent being destroyed, and I think it's wrong. But if you're going through this, all I can tell you this evening is that stay strong. You have to learn to ignore a lot. I mean, believe me, I love my children. I believe all of us love our children. But one of the things that you have to avoid and not pay too much attention to is that they will try to use these children as a pawn to hurt you. That is given. I mean, it's one of their techniques in the tool bags that they use. It's like a weapon that they use against the other parents. But you just need to be aware. If you are able to ignore, I mean, if you're stressed, just go for a walk. Go run, do something fun. Shift your focus a little bit and focus about yourself, because at the end of the day, this parent that is alienating you will be the weaker person, and you will be the upper person. You'll be the one with the upper hand, and the children will always come back to you. I mean, I've seen many examples where the children always run back to the other parents. And so just be positive, be strong. You know, uh, don't. I mean, it's painful. Believe me, it's so painful. I'm not here to undermine that pain, because I've lived through it. I've experienced it. My own story. I can share my story to take me a whole day. But I knew that it was a way to break me. It was, the goal was to break. And I started listening to other stories, and I realized that that's what the end goal is: to break you down, to a point, to break you down financially, break you down emotionally, break you down in every way that they can. I mean, we're talking about how much money we are wasting. This money can pay for a child's 4-year university degree. It makes no sense, and we are taking that money and giving it to somebody else to go spend, whilst we can, work things out peacefully, and have the children, give them that freedom to have both parents in their lives, and spend that money on their education, save that money on their education, instead of just wasting it. I mean, that's a 4-year. I don't know if you've done that math yet, but it's a 4-year, university degree fee or tuition fees that we can potentially spend on a child, and then we waste that money in the courts, which makes no sense. So my encouragement to somebody tonight: just don't focus on the negativity. Just you know focus on yourself first, because if you're able to stand strong, if you're able to heal and be restored, the children will see that in you, and eventually they'll run back. They always run back. They always run back. Go ahead, Jenny. We're going to say something.
Just agreeing with you.
Uh, yeah, but thank you so much for your time tonight. I truly appreciate having you on. And Jenny, I'm going to connect more with you, Miriam. We need to start forming small groups all across the country, all across North America. Groups of 5 10s. I believe if you're able to do this and share the concept of shared parenting, I don't see how any rational person will say no. Right? Once we have those small groups, I mean, small groups go a long way, to make a difference. And eventually, once we have those small groups in place, we'll have a voice. And when we have a voice, the politicians will have to listen to us. Thank you so much for your time tonight. If you can stay on for a few minutes, Miriam and Jenny, and then I'm just going to play the outro, and I'll circle back with you guys in a few minutes.